In the last episode, I sailed from Tobago to Trinidad, and here I turned north and sailed to Grenada overnight, and then on to Carriacou. Because Thursday, May 1st, was a holiday in both countries, to avoid double checkout or check-in fees, I checked out of Trinidad at the last minute on Wednesday, April 31st, slept in the marina that night, and sailed Thursday overnight, arriving in Grenada on Friday, May 2nd. Oh, it's Thursday, May 1st, and I'm leaving Trinidad, or at least for now, powerboats, marina over there. This marina over here is Peaks, and I'm going to head out that way. There's no wind really, but outside there's supposed to be, so we'll see. Now this is Boca Monas, name for this island. This is Monas Island over here. A whole lot of private homes on the shore, all accessible only by boat. And then this is Scotland Bay. I was actually thinking of going in here, anchoring like that cat, and waiting till sunset, but just looked at the weather forecast and it looks like it's going to lighten up tonight, which is not what it was earlier forecast to do, so I think I'll just keep going. Oh, it's 10:30, Friday, May the 2nd, and here we are. This is Bermuda. Looks like there's kind of a fancy neighborhood up here with a big pier. The main lagoon is in there in the marinas, but I'm going to go to a bunch of mooring balls over here. Just for a couple of nights. St. George's is in the southwest corner of Grenada, on the northern side, and hence well protected from the easterly trade winds. And our mooring outside the wonderfully protected harbour is shown in my iSailor chart and zoomed in closer in Google Maps. Alright, it's the afternoon now and the sun's lighting up the hills nicely. So here's the outside of St. George's. Main bay and the lagoon with the fancy Port Louis Marina is back inside here. There's a couple of cargo ships on a new dock they have there. And there's a fort up on the hill here that they're rebuilding, renovating. Quite a major undertaking. I had already repaired multiple tears in the leech of my mainsail, which was original to the boat, so 36 years old. And now the equally original and old 100% jib was starting to tear at the leech. So I repaired and partially reinforced it with strong sail tape, which eventually required stitching as well to stay put. Oh, lovely sunset tonight. We've got some high clouds lit up nice and bright. There's a big boat in the middle here. They look like they could afford to be in the marina. The poor boat on the right. Oh my. Yeah, looks like a jury rig. And what a night we're gonna have. On shore, the party has started. It's Friday night. This unlikely looking place near the fancy Port Louis Marina was very popular, so I tried their breakfast fare, specifically deep fried cakes with saltfish and fried plantains. It was actually the best cakes and saltfish I had in the Caribbean, and of course plantains are always good. Later on, I secured my dinghy to a public bench in the main harbour for a walk around. Well, here's the bay at St. George's. St. George's is off to the left, and over here you can see the mooring field. The Sea Change, the dark little boat in the middle. Yeah, it's very placid this morning. And this huge hospital. What a setting for the hospital. It's really pretty cool. And then behind, unfortunately, being renovated so one can't visit, Fort George, apparently from 1706. It is a very extensive restoration, yielding these very impressive walls. There's a tunnel underneath the rock here that has the fort on it, and then this cool mural. First the slave trade that established the place, and then the revolt against slavery, and we still need the completion of this image. And in the American intervention was that like 83, 83, something like that. And then the characters of Grenada, cricket, athletics, Queens. I'm not sure what the last lady is. This bit's a little strange. And the nightlife. And Morris Bishop International Airport. Bishop was the Prime Minister for a while. And finally, 50th celebration, independence. Sunday, 4th of May. And I've got a scooter and I've ridden up to Grand Etang National Park. This is a viewpoint down back to St. George's in the bay where the moorings are. You can't really see them, but smack in the middle there is sea change on the mooring. The structure on the hill is the fort, Fort George. And then all the big buildings along the side there are on Grand Anse Bay, the tourist resorts. One could hire a guide who guarantees finding these monkeys by feeding them, but I decided to go bird watching instead. Well, this little stream here has turned out to be my best bird watching spot so far, mostly because it's nice and wide open. You see them moving around and then get the binoculars on them. That evening I had dinner at the Marina restaurant with Mike and Andrea Golding. Mike is one of the most accomplished competitive sailors in the world, having raced 3 times in the Ronde Globe, gone around the world the wrong way, and won the IMOCA Championship twice. His latest project was completely different. A family cruise from New Zealand to France on their 52-foot Outremer catamaran called Traverse. They left New Zealand from Whangarei within days of me in May 2024, and while I went to New Caledonia, they went to Fiji. We met in Vanuatu as we were both checking out to sail to Australia, shown here. I later met them again in Darwin and enjoyed dinner aboard Traverse. Then in Cape Town, Mike gave a talk to the local Ocean Cruising Club chapter. And later, Andrea and her son Soren joined me on a hike up Table Mountain. And I used my kiting gear to give Mike and Soren some beginner tips at a large lagoon north of Cape Town called Langebaan. It's Monday, 5th of May. I'm leaving St. George's. There's the main lagoon and harbour there. The fort being rebuilt at the top. And here's the other side of the town with the fish market and the fresh produce market. And this huge dock sticking out for cruise ships. I asked when the next cruise ship will be and she said, end of the year, the season is over. So I guess this is wet season. And we have a big rainy cloud coming over, but that's okay. We get a little bit wet. We're gonna head up north, just over the end of Grenada to an island called Ronde. Spend the night there at least, maybe 2 nights. Behind us over there is the mooring field. There's only 18 buoys, not 30 as advertised, and it's only about half occupied this morning. The rest, I think, were charter boats that left on Sunday morning. Sailing in the lee of high islands like this can be frustrating, alternating between motoring and even sailing with the wind coming over the island and back from the west. I expected light conditions. Didn't expect the wind to come from the west, which it has for the last little while. But we motored through, and now I see the breeze coming from the east and the sails are just back. So back to normal service. It's a bit more like it. The mountain's not so high here. There's a nice gap there and we got some good breeze. We're doing 6 knots, but now we're back to 4. Up in front here, hard to see, they're still far away. There's 2 sailboats coming down. I think they're both cats. All the other boats I've seen are going south, which of course makes sense. Ronde Island is a popular anchorage, but after Category 4 Hurricane Beryl passed north of it On July 1, 2024, all the trees were stripped, the corals were destroyed, and the sand in the anchorage was very thin. This island's called Ronde or Ronde or something like that, R-O-N-D-E. We've got an interesting Warham catamaran here, an Italian boat that's come across the Atlantic, worked down the Caribbean, and they're headed to Panama and hopefully around the world. Michael and Andrea. Finally getting a benefit of having fixed the portholes. I can now open them. This one's got a little complication of the fan, but Bungee takes care of that. I'm not going to worry about the little ones, but I can open all four of the big portholes. Oops, it's the sun coming in. And it really helps when you're being swung around by the wind all the time, and so you don't always have the wind coming in from the bow and going out the stern. As illustrated by my anchor alarm showing random movement, I had bought some tuna at the fish market in St. George's and enjoyed it seared with fried plantain, one of my favorite meals. The next morning I continued north to the island of Carriacou, which was hit by the center of Hurricane Beryl, and anchored at two adjacent small islands before going into the main bay and anchorage called Tyrell Bay on the southwest corner. The tracks I am showing here are from my Predict Wind tracker, which only updates once an hour, hence the seemingly jagged path. Tuesday, May 6. What a gorgeous morning. Lovely still night here. These clouds just came over and we've got a little rainbow on the left there. Absolutely beautiful. And that little black dot in the middle is a fisherman who was there all night with a little red light so that people wouldn't run into him. We had to motor sail to get across here to Carriacou. There was a strong current between the two islands, and so it's really hard to get up here, and we still haven't quite laid Tyrell Bay. That's Tyrell Bay in front there. But I think for tonight I'm actually going to tack and work my way up to some islands over here for one night and then come back to check out. As shown by the current forecast in the Windy app, the current flows strongly westward between each of these windward islands. And my track on my iSailor chart shows how we could not lay the island directly, so I had to tack and beat upwind to my planned anchorage between islands on the east side of Carriacou. This is a huge volcanic plug. The main structure of White Island. On the other side is a nice white beach. I might go there later. But right now we are motoring towards Saline Island, another volcanic plug over there. There's one boat anchored and apparently there's room for maybe one more. Alright, so this is White Island. Decided to anchor over here. There's a nice little white sand spit over there. Although this is all rubble from the Hurricane Beryl, so the anchor hasn't actually dug in, it's just kind of caught on some rocks, which I hope is enough if we have a squall like that come through during the night. Anyway, you can see over here this massive volcanic plug. It's really quite pretty on the other side, the basaltic rock. And over there is Saline Island. I tried to anchor there, but there was a monster French boat anchored there. You can just see their mast sticking out above the bushes there. And they basically took the center spot in a little bay. I tried to anchor, but it just dragged and dragged. I didn't want to bang into them. I don't have insurance. So I have a nice quiet night over here. It's awfully pretty. This satellite view shows the tiny light blue anchorage on Saline Island and my actual anchorage behind White Island. This is the southeastern shore of Carriacou. You can still see places that are trashed, boats that are on the shore, and the trees all ripped to shreds, but still few building houses right on the top of the hill, ready for the next hurricane to wipe them out. A couple little houses at the end here. I'm going to go between these islands, the big one and the rock, not the rock and the mainland, and around to Sandy Island, which is way on the other side there. Coming around the southeast corner here of Carriacou. It's a very obvious rock, well marked on the charts. You certainly would not want to hit. It's low tide now, but I think even at high tide the swells break on it. On the other side there you can see the bay, Tyrell Bay, just coming into view. I'm going to go past that. I'm going to go to Sandy Island, far on the other side, and then I'll come back tomorrow to check out. There's the other edge of Tyrell Bay. Here is my track into appropriately named Sandy Island. I've come over to the western side of the island. Tyrell Bay is over there through that gap. See, we're in lovely shallow water here. There are 10 mooring buoys. This is some sort of marine park. You pay, I think it's $10 a night for these moorings, or if you're anchoring. And we've got a nice breeze coming through, so these guys next to me are going kite surfing. I did, in fact, try to go kite surfing, but it's awkward with the wind coming over the island. So the wind was up and down, and it was quite difficult to be able to ride, even on my foil board. So eventually I gave up and just enjoyed the island. Palms actually survived the hurricane, which is quite surprising. And there in the distance is Union Island. I'll be over there on Friday. I'm coming around into Tyrell Bay here. You see all the trees on this hill, and this is, I believe, the leeward side, even for the storm. Just trees torn and shredded all over the place, but still there's a few that survived and they're leafing out quite nicely. And then the first reminder of the carnage of the boats. Not completely certain what that was. Perhaps one hull of a catamaran, small catamaran. Anyway, it's going to be a lot more when we get into Tyrell Bay and go into the hurricane hole in the mangrove later today. Alright, I'm in Tyrell Bay, anchored way over there somewhere. You just barely see me on the corner there, disappearing. There's a lot of boats anchored and a lot of activity. This is one of the two marinas. It's got a big hard stand. If I turn around the other way, this narrow entrance here is the entrance to a hurricane hole, supposedly. It's surrounded by mangroves, as you can see over here. There's a lovely little piping plover there on the sand on the beach. At least I think it is. Get the binoculars on it in a moment. Here's the mangroves on the other side. It's still somewhat intact, but essentially all the boats that were tied to the mangroves here broke loose, and they all got dragged down in here and smashed all the other boats. They've cleared the whole place out. I don't see any remaining debris, or well, some debris, but no boats. The Google map today, a year later, still shows the situation shortly after Beryl, with boats strewn all over the sides of the hurricane hole, instead of being held in the water by combinations of anchors and lines to the mangroves, and sometimes piled up on each other. There are many videos on YouTube documenting the devastation of boats here. So that was the outer basin where the bigger boats and the latecomers had to be, and they all got smashed. The smaller boats, especially all the catamarans, were all in this inner portion, which goes way back here and round a corner, and they were still all smashed. But they've all been removed, other than bits and pieces in the trees. You can see the trees are absolutely mangled, but you'd have thought that lines attached to the trunks would have survived, but who knows. You see up on the hill there, some of the houses still fairly badly trashed, but there's a lot of reconstruction going on. Some people with money building fancy houses on the hills, and then folks without money are living under tarpaulins like these guys and these guys. Yeah, and one more fancy place up on the ridge there. And here's the sort of double basin at the end of this hurricane hole. Little narrowing there, and then another basin over there, and then around. I mean, it looks like one of the best hurricane holes in the Caribbean probably, but against a Category 4 storm like Beryl. Wow, look at the trees here, they're totally shredded. One's back over there are recovering to some extent. These big mangroves here completely stripped. I wonder if they'll recover. They don't look like they're going to recover quickly. And all the way down. This place was absolutely full of boats, mostly catamarans, smashed. And if you look on Google Maps, you can still see a bunch of them remaining, but they've removed everything. It's very impressive. And up on the hill, a fancy place on the left, and another one going up on the right. Hear them hanging away with hammers. In fact, all around town is the sound of hammering. Oh, there's lots of extremes, as you might imagine, walking around here. There are places that lost their roofs, completely trashed, and not much hope of recovery. And then across the street, this big place got a brand new roof on it, which is very nice. There's some nice murals. A lot of places have the 50th independence celebrations marked up on their walls. This is a little strange with a cannon over the bay. And here's another 50th celebration, again nicely restored, and a nice new roof on the top. The same with the place next door. So yeah, there's a lot of effort to rebuild. In places it's looking good, other places of course are still quite run down. Well, they have taken their soccer field. There's the lights up there, and there's one of the goals way over there. Converted it into a place to sort all the metal from all the rest of it, and then there's a huge compressor on the other side of these bales that has been used to bale it all up. Exactly what happens to it then, I don't know. Here you can see the situation with many of the houses still with problems with their roofs, tarpaulins on them and so on. But a lot of reconstruction going on. Well, we've got a lovely sunset tonight, and looking west, of course, this anchorage at Tyrell Bay is pretty darn full. I mean, they can fit a lot more boats, but I would guess it's close to 100 altogether, and I estimated around about 30 of them are probably dismasted and otherwise damaged, and perhaps sometimes undergoing repair. There's two marinas, one's over there, and there's about 20 boats there on the hard that are some of them being worked on, others just sitting there. Tomorrow morning I'll go to this other marina over here to check out. Here's the view of Tyrell Bay from the other side, the southern side. And there's a steep hill coming up from Carriacou Marina down there. But shame, what a mess up here. Look at these houses. They're right up on the ridge, and the wind must have absolutely howled through here. Wow. There's some poor guy's place down. Even the ones a little bit below are completely trashed. And in the background there you can see people restoring. So one 2, 3, 4, 5 places in good shape down there. But there's this white island over there, catamaran naked there today. And look at this, hey, the house is up on the very peak of the hill, completely destroyed. Look at the peak of that one. It looked like there was a whole floor on top that was taken off. And this big place here, shame, lost its roof. They're living in the back part of it with tarpaulins on the roof. This is kind of curious. The concrete brick wall, got knocked down, but it got knocked down towards the south, which implies the backside of the storm actually did that. Ay, shame. Really tough. The devastation of this neighborhood on the ridge above Carriacou Marina is evident in this Google Maps satellite view from shortly after Beryl. The crazy steep road down to Carriacou Marina. Little hard stand here on the left, maybe 20 boats could be fitted in max. Half of them have lost their masts and are being worked on. And then altogether, in addition to little sea change in the middle there, I count 110 boats in the Tyrell Bay here. And there's the little town down there. In the next episode, I continue sailing north through the Grenadines to St. Vincent.